Hello dear students of third year middle school, and welcome again to another episode of online courses. So I hope my dear students are doing well, and here we go again with another lesson which will be about the language use. So today's lesson, guys, is gonna be about the adverbs of frequency. Now, to get into this lesson, it's okay to ask the following question. What is an adverb of frequency? So here we have the word, for example, adverb. Okay, it's okay to read the definition. An adverb of frequency describes how often an action or a verb happens. An adverb of frequency describes how often an action or a verb happens. So here we have the word adverb. So it shows here that here we have a word which is going to describe a verb. Okay? A word which is going to describe a verb. So, to describe what? To describe how often that verb happens. Okay? How often that verb happens. So, an adverb of frequency. هذا الادverb of frequency يبين لنا مقدار تكرار الفعل. هل هو شيء يحدث دائما، أحيانا، غالبا، أو لا يحدث أبدا. Okay, so this is the adverb of frequency. Okay, let's go with the first adverb of frequency. The first adverb of frequency is always. So let's take an example. I always pray 5 times a day. دائما ما أصلي 5 صلوات في اليوم. Okay, so here we have the first adverb of frequency, which is always. It describes that a certain verb happens every day, every time. Okay, always. Second adverb of frequency is usually. Okay, pay attention to the pronunciation. Is usually, not usually or something else. Okay, it's usually. So I usually do something. غالبا ما أفعل شيء. Okay, usually. Then after we have often. Okay, often يعني عادة ولا تقريب عنده نفس المعنى with usually. Okay, often عادة غالبا ما أقوم بفعل. Then we have the adverb of frequency sometimes. يعني هذا أقل تكرار. Okay, أقل تكرار sometimes. أحيانا. Okay, I sometimes, for example, play sport. Okay, أحيانا ألعب الرياضة. It's not something which I do every day. Okay, ليس شيء أقوم به دائما، وإنما أحيانا, sometimes. Then after we have rarely. What does it mean, rarely? Rarely, I rarely, for example, play with my friends, for example. Okay, I rarely play with my friends. Okay, I stick to my homeworks, for example. I stick to my study. Okay, I rarely play with my friends, especially now when I'm studying. Okay, so let's say نادرا. Okay, نادرا ما أخرج لألعب مع أصدقائي لأنه مثلا وقت الدراسة ولا وقت الامتحانات. Okay, so I rarely play with my friends, for example. Then at the end we have never. Okay, so بدينا من always الفعل الذي يتكرر دائما، وانتهينا بالفعل الذي لا يتكرر أبدا. Okay, I never. Okay, I never, for example, I never smoke, for example. Okay, I never smoke cigarette. I never smoke cigarette. Okay, I never eat junk food. I never eat junk food. I never eat unhealthy food. I never eat unhealthy food. لا أكل أبدا الأطعمة الغير صحية مثلا. Okay. Now let's move to the use. Use adverbs of frequency to answer the question how often. So whenever I found the question how often, I'm going to answer, or the answer is going to contain an adverb of frequency. دائما الإجابة على الأسئلة التي تبدأ ب how often تحتوي على the adverbs of frequency. Okay, let's take an example here. How often do you play with dolls? How often do you play with dolls? I rarely play with dolls because I always play video games. Because I always play video games. So nowadays kids, for example, الأطفال في يومنا هذا مثلا نادرا ما يلعبون بالدومة. Okay, so for example, I ask someone, how often do you play with dolls? ما مدى لعبك بمثلا الدومة؟ راح يجيب ب the adverb of frequency. Okay, الإجابة دائما تحتوي على an adverb of frequency. I rarely play with dolls. نادرا ما ألعب بالدومة. Because لماذا؟ Because I always play video games. دائما ألعب بألعاب الفيديو مثلا. Okay. Now use a positive verb with hardly, ever and never. Of course after hardly ever or never, hardly ever تقريب عنده نفس المعنى تاع never. Okay, never شيء لا يحدث أبدا. hardly ever تقريبا نفس الشيء. Okay, hardly ever. We use a positive verb with hardly ever and never. So we don't use a negative verb. Okay, we don't use negative with hardly ever and never. So for example, we say he never smokes. He never smokes. لا يدخن أبدا. And we don't say, or instead of saying he doesn't never smoke. Okay, that's false. Now let's come to the position. The position. موقع the adverb of frequency. Okay, what is the position of an adverb of frequency? The adverbs of frequency go before all verbs. Adverbs of frequency go before all verbs. دائما يأتي قبل الأفعال مع كل الأفعال في الإنجليزية except one verb. Except one verb, which is the verb to be. The verb to be تقريبا verb to be دائما ما يحدث الاستثناءات في القواعد. Okay, so except one verb, which is the verb to be. So here we have the order of a sentence which contains an adverb of frequency. Here we have subject plus adverb of frequency plus verb. Okay, subject plus adverb of frequency plus verb. Okay, so pay attention. Here we have verb, not a stem. Okay, we conjugate the verb simply and normally. Okay, example, she always plays tennis in the morning. She always plays tennis in the morning. Okay, so we have subject here, she, always, then plays. Okay, subject, adverb of frequency, then a verb, conjugated verb. Okay, it's normally conjugated. Okay, فعل مصرف بشكل عادي ولا نستعمل الفعل الغير مصرف بعد adverbs of frequency. Okay, they usually have lunch at work. They usually have lunch at work. So here we have the exception. which I have talked about, adverbs of frequency go after the verb to be. Okay, so the position of an adverb of frequency when we have a sentence which contains the verb to be, the adverb of frequency goes always after. Always goes after. Okay, دائما always دائما ما يأتي بعد الفعل ولا بعد verb to be. Okay, so we have the following order: subject plus verb to be plus the adverb of frequency. Subject, verb to be, adverb of frequency. Example: she is always late for work. She is always late for work. دائما ما تأتي متأخرة إلى العمل. They are often hungry. They are often hungry.